So it's time for another gardening week video, and I've been really happy with starting all my seedlings on this pallet which is on top of these IBC tanks. It's worked really well this year. Whether it would work as well every year I'm not so sure, but it's just been really easy, and this is as close to a slug-free seed starting environment as I've got. I'm just going to quickly step you through a few of the things that are ready for planting on here. So we've got some Tokyo Cross turnips ready, got some lettuces over there, I've got some miner's lettuce or Claytonia over there, these salad onions, this salad rocket, and those spinach. Not quite sure where I'm going to plant them yet, but I have got a couple of beds that did have melons in, which are pretty close to being ready for planting, so I'll get those reconditioned as quickly as I can. I've got a few spare things over there, and again I'm not really sure where those are going to go, and I don't really care because they're spares right now, so I'm going to focus on getting these planted. These Claytonia here, these are looking a little bit sickly. I think they've run out of nutrients in the compost, so probably need to get those planted rather than those. The thing about those is they're looking much better, and they're in a much bigger module. Just shows you really that sometimes it just makes sense to sow in a much bigger module when you're not sure when you're going to have space to plant out. I have got some new Claytonia here which have just germinated, and they should be okay until they're planted out in October. So that's the seedling table. It's looking pretty good. So this is my first bed to be planted, and yeah, I just love this about the melon beds. Clearing a bed is just so easy. And then that's it, just like these few mare's tail to pull out, and that is pretty much it. And now this may also be partly due to using the strulch, which has definitely kept the weeds down and definitely kept the slugs and snails at bay. Obviously the bed is really dry now underneath here, really dry. I'm going to take this strulch out. I don't really know whether I'm going to keep it or not. I might just bag it up just in case and use it again next year. It's worked pretty well. So I only water these beds in this halo here in the centre to basically get down to the root zone of the melons. And so all this area of bed has been unwatered since basically June. And it's still moist 4 inches down, which is absolutely incredible really. Anyway, I'm really happy about that, and it does mean though that I do need to sort of give these beds maybe 4 watering cans each, but I mean that is a small price to pay for loads of melons and not having to water much through summer. So this bed's going to have brassicas in it next year, so it's going to have cauliflowers, calabrese, something like that, early in the season. So basically after whatever goes in here now, either spinach or lettuce. So I'm just going to put some dolomite lime. I don't have ordinary calcium carbonate to hand, but I'll put some more lime down when I actually plant them. But because I've got this problem with clubroot on my plot in some of the beds, and I don't know which ones, I am sort of proceeding with an abundance of caution. So now I'm going to get that well watered in, and I'm just going to add some bloodfish and bone. And I don't test my soil, I'm just too much of a 80-20 gardener to bother with things like that. And by that I mean that I only sort of try to do the 20% of things that make 80% of the difference, and then just forget about the rest. And I just find that bloodfish and bone is just a nice general purpose fertiliser. And on my sandy soil, it really does pay to provide extra fertiliser. Compost alone, I don't think, is enough. It's just too much of a risk when so much of your nutrients comes from this little patch of sandy soil to risk that compost is going to provide everything you need. But I do, of course, put compost on as well. And so I'm just putting my homemade compost. I never sieve it. And I like to put about 40 litres on these beds, which are just over a metre squared. So that's about 30 millimetres of compost. Once I've got it quite nicely spread out, I just get my rake and I just tamp it down. I hardly ever use this rake for actually raking anything, but I really like it. It's a rubber rake, really useful. So these are the turnips, and I've decided I'm going to put these at the back. It's warmest at the back. Turnips are going to really need the warmth to grow to maturity at this time of year, and they've actually got most space down the back there as well. And of course they're a one-time harvest, so lettuce is obviously going to be continuously harvested over a long period of time, and that means I want the things that are easiest to reach at the front, the things that are trickiest to reach at the back, and then I'll think about what I'll replant these turnips with later on, if anything at all. I might not actually need to do that because these lettuce will be coming out in sort of November time probably, and so you know that might be the time at which I'm harvesting the last of these turnips anyway, so I might not need to worry about it. So that's the first of the turnips in. So yeah, I'm very happy with that. So I've got a mix of Alpheas, Navara, Riccia, Hawking, flashy butter oak, canasta, and Tokyo cross turnips. So that's going to be a really nice salad mix in a few weeks' time. So I would normally water these in at this stage, but because I've already watered the bed so well, and I've watered the additional compost as well, and the modules were well watered when they were in the module tray, and the weather is kind of dull and rainy for the next few days, I'm not going to water them in, and hopefully that means they can concentrate on putting roots down deep, which will be good because, as I say, this bed was not very well watered, so I do want them to try and get roots down as deep as possible. So we'll see how they go. I'm going to keep them extremely well ventilated at this stage, and really all this cover is doing is just being stored, but it will keep any high winds off them as well, which is useful. So I've decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these Claytonia, the ones that are looking pretty grim, into this bed, fairly tightly spaced, much more tightly spaced than I would do them if I was going to overwinter them. And I'll do these for an autumn harvest because we really like them. We don't normally do an autumn harvest of them, so we'll give that a go. And hopefully then I can clear this bed and get it replanted later on. And then in this bed I'm going to put the Rubino spinach, and I'm again tightly packing it in, 36 plants into just this little bed, mainly for a salad harvest. And then at the back of that bed, where the Claytonia is going, I'm going to put the dregs of those Tokyo cross turnips. So yeah, pretty pleased with that planting plan, always changing my plans. So I'm pleased with these two, they've gone in nicely. I'm not 100% sure what I'll be planting after these. Maybe my winter spinach that goes in sort of, late November sort of time, which is for an early spring harvest. I normally do cauliflowers and calabrese in this bed, but I could just as easily do them in that bed. So I don't think I'll worry overly about that. And yeah, so another bed down. So I generally leave my asparagus in until just the beginning of October, so it doesn't shade this bed here too much with the purple sprouting broccoli in it. But I'm just trimming it back because it's kind of getting in the way and making it difficult to access the paths, and I need some greens for my compost bin, so I thought I might as well start trimming it back a little bit. Just makes for less work in October. I don't think it'll hurt it. So I've just finished turning my compost bin. I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do about it because it is really rich already. So I don't think I can turn much more greens into this. I think maybe one more batch of greens. This is the bin that was made from the wood chip, and basically there's almost no sign now of any wood chips in it. So it's it's a really rich compost, which means I think I can start another wood chip bin, which is fantastic news actually, because I thought I would only get one wood chip bin a year, but it looks like I might actually get 2 of these usable next year. So yeah, if you just want to have a look at it and see just how incredibly rich it is, it's yeah, that is nice compost, given that it's still 4 to 6 months away from being used. It's pretty nice stuff. So I'm just coming to the end of the week, and I'm doing a lot of tidying up. First off, I've moved my trusty old filing cabinet into the Polytunnel, just so I've got everything that I use in the Polytunnel on a regular basis all the way through winter on hand, rather than having to go into the shed. And I've only got 2 working weeks now, because we're away a little bit between now and when I clear this Polytunnel. So I've made a start, just started taking off some of these rampant squash leaves and tomato leaves and things like that. So I've got a little more space, and I've got a little bit more light in here, and I've got a little bit less to do in 2 weeks' time. And I'm going to turn all this lot into my compost bin, and turn the whole compost bin while I'm doing it as well, which is always a good little workout. So, back with the harvest, and yeah, it's a pretty good harvest. There's still some issues though, I'll tell you about those in a minute. Anyway, so what have we got here? Back here, we've now finished those grotty carrots. We're back onto decent carrots, although these are summer carrots, and they're not the best carrots to be eaten in autumn, but we haven't quite got through them all yet, so I'll be pleased when I've finished those. Beetroot, potatoes from the store, onions from the store, shallots from the store, garlic from the store, carrots from the allotment, and parsnips from the allotment. That is quite the impressive forked parsnip actually. Normally when they fork, they're not really very usable, but actually that has turned out to be quite usable, so I was quite pleased to get that one out. Behind here we have a lovely red cabbage and some komatsuma and some leeks and some celery and some chili peppers, and then all sorts of different squashes here. So these are the zephyr, these are the centre cut, these are the trumpettinos, these are the jackpot littles, and of course we've still got all the winter squash to come. Just a few little pears there. I've got a big tub of those. I'll show you in a minute. These were little big red cabbages, this sort of size, they rotted. And I think they rotted because they got a bit sort of covered over with other plants, and so they just got too damp and mouldy. Anyway, we managed to salvage 2 little red cabbages from those, and we've got some turnips and some parsley, and yeah, quite a substantial number again of tomatoes for processing. I started to pick some of the grapes. Actually, we've been picking them for 3 weeks, and yeah, they're pretty good. Actually, the grandkids declared them to be the best grapes they've ever tasted. Well, they're not the best grapes I've ever tasted, but yeah, they're not too bad. So what have we got here? Oh, sweet corn. This is the sort of 2nd or 3rd cobs off the plants, and yeah, they're a bit grotty, but that's the end really of that succession, and we're on to the next succession, which is much nicer. Started to pick a few little bits of asparagus. Yeah, that's the last of the melons. They've been a great success. I'm very happy with those. Starting to pick some decent peppers now. Really nice sizes. And got a lot more peppers to come. And a lot more beds to clear as well, because I need to get them replanted fairly soon. Salad onions, more celery, big tub of apples and pears. We haven't started doing, as I say, our bulk harvest yet, but this is just our weekly pick. More Asian greens, salad carrots, and we're back with spinach. So we were without spinach for 2 weeks because it went to seed on us unexpectedly. And actually that is a theme now, because these, as you can see, they're looking a bit grotty, aren't they? These Asian greens, and these are going to seed as well. And some of the lettuces are going to seed, lots of stuff going to seed because of that really hot, well, it's still hot now, to be honest. So for sort of 2 to 3 weeks of really hot weather in September has just really confused a lot of my plants. Anyway, back to the good news. We have still got some cucumbers, and the tomatoes are doing great. 2 different types there. This is my favourite, honeycomb, but they do tend to split. So they look very much like sun gold. They split less than sun gold, but they don't. But these Aviditas split, well, hardly ever split at all. So I actually prefer these because it's just a pain having them splitting all the time. And then there's the salad mixes. So I've got to make these salad mixes up. This week I haven't got any golden purslane because it's just, you know, it's that time of year. It's all seeds now. There's hardly any good leaf quality on it. Stems are thickening up and getting tough, so I'm going to pull that out and get that bed replanted. But yeah, slugs got another of my salad beds. I've never had it like this. Never. I mean, I've had slugs take a salad bed, slugs and snails. I've had caterpillars take another bed, and now I'm back with slugs taking another bed. Oh, it's just tough, but still managing to pull through, which probably means I planted too many salads, but as it happens, it's been just enough. So I am a bit weary, but I've got the harvest done. So this will keep us and the family well fed for a week, and I will be back next Saturday, Sunday probably. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.